So, welcome. For anybody that is here for the first time, you can join me and log in at daytradersfx.com, and you can get a free trial to the trade group. You can find out what we do on a day-to-day basis. This is kind of my weekly outlook, but we meet every single day, and we're on at all kinds of random days, times of day and night. I live in Pacific time, which means it is 4 p.m. right now, Los Angeles time, and sometimes I get up at 3 a.m. and jump into the chat and start talking about trades. And sometimes there's people here, and sometimes there's not. And so, if you're in a crazy time zone and you think that you may not be able to trade during regular U.S. market hours, fear not, because we're on all kinds of crazy times. I am on a heavy no sleeping diet, and surprisingly, I feel about the same getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning as I do getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's really weird. So it makes me wonder why I've wasted 3 hours a day of my life for the last like 10 years getting up at these late hours. So anyway, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty fantastic. So we're on at all kinds of crazy, just nutty times, and yeah, and I love to catch some of the UK markets and some of the movement in the euro and UK pairs. There's just some good stuff there, so that's why we get on pretty early sometimes. So, and it's always good to see the. There you go, Kellen. Yeah, 2 a.m.'s good. 2 a.m.'s not bad. So we do that. We get up at lots of weird hours, and it's fun. Okay, so this week, one thing that we always like to look at, and we do live sessions with this and so on, is news events. We love to trade news, and it's always exciting. So there's always some news to trade and some things to do. This week, what we have is nothing too terribly crazy. We'll keep an eye on the Chinese CPI news that's out. Excuse me, in about an hour and change. Sometimes that can move a few other pairs as well if it's really a big shocker. We've got some New Zealand news on Tuesday. Nothing major. We'll see how things look. The central bank in New Zealand is going to have some words to say, so we'll see how that goes. But Tuesday is not a heavy news day. Wednesday we have a bank holiday in the U.S. and Canada. Maybe somebody can enlighten me what holiday we have on. Oh, it's Veterans Day. What do they have in Canada? Remembrance Day. All right, so looks like we've got a couple of bank holidays coming up on Wednesday. That doesn't usually stop me, so we'll be here. We'll be here. We'll be trading. We will most likely 100% of the chance do a live session on Wednesday at 4:30 for the Australian employment numbers for members. So that should be pretty exciting. Plus our regular morning session. We'll see how that goes. Thursday we've got Draghi speaking, which is always exciting. You never know what's going to happen there. That's a box of chocolates right there. Yellen is speaking as well. We'll be on for that. And then Friday we've got some retail sales numbers for the U.S. and so on. So there's a medium amount of news today, or this week. Nothing too crazy, but enough to get markets moving. We're also going to talk about in the group why Americans over 30 are more miserable than ever. Actually, we're not going to talk about that, but I'd like to think about that for a minute. I don't know if I'm more miserable than ever. I feel actually more happy than ever. I think Americans over 30 need to buy RVs probably because I'm pretty happy. So maybe that's an ingredient. I don't know. But well, we'll see if we can come up with a great solution to that. U.S. markets are getting kind of hammered a little bit today. You can see the Dow's closed down a bit, the S&P and all of that. We're going to see how that plays out. Oil has made a massive move to stay exactly in the mid 40s, which is so incredibly unexciting and great for filling up some of my gas guzzling vehicles that I own. So that's great. That's right, Simon. They need to join the trade group. Man, if I could just put Day Traders FX under that headline. We're here to help. We are here to help. So some of my bold claims that I'm going to make here are going to be as follows. After last week's job reports, for the U.S. specifically, we saw a couple of things happen. Number one, job numbers went up a lot. Number two, unemployment rate went down a little bit. And number three, and possibly a very, very important number three, is that Um, Earnings increased. Average hourly earnings, that's a big deal. And that has not been moving in a good direction for a long time, which is one of the reasons that the Fed is kind of stuck with interest rates because these average hourly earnings are not doing so hot. So, all of that being the case, um, I'm looking for. I was a little on the fence, and then after Friday, I'm pretty much looking for a rate hike at the end of this year. And so I'm going to be focusing after that news. I'm going to be focusing pretty heavily on U.S. dollar pairs, probably this week specifically. I'm always looking at U.S. dollar pairs, but I love to trade the Aussie New Zealand and the Euro CAD and the yen pairs and all of that. And we are going to trade those and we are going to watch those. But my biggest, most focus, that's right, my focus is going to be on U.S. dollar pairs this week. I think they're gonna move pretty well for us with how that news went. I think the market is pretty much convinced that the Fed is going to raise interest rates and that's going to be strong for the U.S. dollar, and probably is going to take poo-poos on the stock market. And I think we're going to see a continuation happen here going into the end of the year. And so I feel like there's some interesting discrepancies here. My indicator is telling me one thing, and my brain is telling me another. And so I've had to come up with a negotiation between the two. So far, I want to be short euro dollar worse than anything ever, probably. I think that's a safe assessment. I feel the same way about the pound dollar, but we've got some interesting things on the indicator here telling us that we may see upward movement before downward movement. So if we see the euro dollar and the pound dollar move up 1 or 200 pips, that doesn't mean that's the direction they're headed. It means we're seeing um, some little, corrections, some little tiny movements, but I'm pretty intent on getting hugely short euro dollar and trading this down to, at least the 104, 105 area. But I want to jump into it after we get some slight pullbacks. And so that's kind of the first thing we're going to talk about here. But let's just get a little bigger view on what the euro has been doing over the last little while and kind of where it's been. We have just broken on the euro dollar. We have basically a pretty perfect double bottom just around 10800. And you can see that we have mashed through 10800. We're totally through 10800. That was a big double bottom. That was a low in May and a low in July. And the euro has been channeling in this area for months and months and months and months and months and months and months. And has just not gone anywhere. And now we've broken through all of that. You can see on the weekly chart we had a huge channel right here. The euro made this big run down and been consolidating since the beginning of this year practically, and now it ran down to that channel and has busted through. So we're through all of this stuff. I wouldn't, and so that's kind of some of the biggest reasons I'm looking to get short on euro dollar. The central bank, the European Central Bank, is just keeping things really easy and really steady. They may be adding more stimulus and doing some of that. That's going to just increase the supply of euros, which is naturally going to drive it down a little bit. And in the U.S., we're starting to talk about tightening and raising interest rates and so on. And so it seems like one of the big themes that we look for is finding a strong currency and a weak currency. And it seems like we're going to see some euro weakness coming up, and it seems like we're going to see some dollar strength coming up. Both of those together, that being the case, I think the euro dollar is going to be a great candidate. We're going to talk about some of those factors on the pound dollar as well, but the euro dollar should be a great candidate for that. But the other side of the coin is that we have, let me move this guy real quick here. We have some interesting numbers on my indicator. For those of you that have my indicator, we're decently oversold on the 1 hour chart. So the euro dollar may need to run up as high as 10900. May need to run up 150 pips. It could very likely do that. 10900 doesn't do anything super traumatic to anything. It just kind of retests some of this breakout area that caused some consolidation when the euro broke out of that huge week-long channel. So I'm open to the euro dollar moving higher by 100 to 150 pips into 10900. If I see 10900, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be shorter than the shortest short ever. And I'm going to be piling on some nice positions. If we test that area and we get some good stability and some nice price rejection, I'm going to be heading down from 10900. If that doesn't happen, if this just says, you know what, we're going to create a massive, huge discrepancy here of time and indicator extremes, then I'm just going to continue to short the euro dollar from where it currently stands. Now, I've been kind of watching this. We can extend our bear flag trend lines out just a little bit, but this is bear flag city right here, at least on the 1 hour chart. And so the euro dollar is consolidating in there nicely. If this starts to break below this low right here around 107.25, then I'll get short there as well. But I want to give it a little bit of a chance to run up, possibly into the missed or into this current week's pivot, just a little bit above 10800. And again, there's a possibility of 109. But overall, I want to be short euro dollar. I think euro dollar is going to be a fantastic one to be short. And I'm going to be looking for trades down into, as I said, at least into these lows here, below 105. And I think the euro dollar could possibly and finally be headed for parity even. Um, and so that's where some fantastic trading opportunities are going to be coming from. So let's be ready for that. So euro dollar shorts at the break of 107.25 or at the retest of as high as 10900. So we're going to be watching this. If you want to see how we trade this and how this plays out, we're going to be watching this and trading the heck out of it through the European and UK sessions and through the US sessions moving forward. So that's where I am on euro dollar. I think the pound dollar may be a pretty excellent opportunity to short as well. Of course, after a little bit of pullback, I think we may see a little bit more. But again, we're looking over here at the pound dollar, and this is pretty important. The pound dollar has taken just a massive dive down here. You can see on this daily chart, we had the Bank of England said that rates are potentially going to stay as they are for a while longer. So for the last 80 months, which I don't even know why they refer to it as 80 months, they might as well just say 500 years. The Bank of England has left rates unchanged, and it doesn't seem like they're going to be changing rates anytime soon. And again, we have that possibility of the U.S. raising rates. The important thing that has happened here is that the pound has broken pretty nicely. The pound dollar has broken pretty nicely below the lows going back to May. So this is the channel the pound dollar has been in since May. And it's been bouncing up and down and all over the place. And we made a nice little break of that 151.15 area. And yeah, Simon, I don't hate it. You know, the talk about raising interest rates in the U.S. is just going to make it more expensive for me to buy real estate and buy other things where interest rates are factors. So yeah, low rates are fantastic for me and for the average person. That's for sure. But hopefully the raise in rates will help me make a whole bunch of money in the currency side of things, so that it can compensate for how much more expensive things are about to get. Um, so this 151.15 is a super important level. Now, one thing that I love here is that my indicator is not telling me much. The pound dollar has been so consolidated for so long that it has not really made a major pull away from moving averages. It's not really getting overextended anywhere. The euro dollar is a little more overextended. The pound dollar is not at all. And so I'm watching this area. Very good chance we could rise up into the missed weekly pivot, or the current weekly pivot, excuse me. We have a missed weekly or daily pivot from Friday. So we could see some moves higher on the pound dollar as well. Anywhere from 75 to 150 pips give or take, is what we could see. So I'm kind of open to that on euro dollar and pound dollar. Both of these pairs might head up another, 75 to probably 150 pips, somewhere in that range. But then I want to be short both of these pairs. I want to be short pound dollar. I want to be short euro dollar for a long time. And I think the pound has some pretty good possibilities because this has been super consolidated for months and months. And I think we've got a good chance of running back into the yearly lows here. Back down into the 145 zone. Hello, that could be exciting. So we may have 5 to 6 to so many hundred pips to go there. So that would be fantastic. So we'll be looking for that. Um, and that's gonna be some nice trading opportunity there. Back to our continued dollar strength. I think the dollar CAD is a pretty good option. I've been kind of just watching this little bull flag, which is not really that little. It's actually a pretty decent sized little bull flag. And the dollar CAD is running nicely. So this may dip down and want to just test that weekly pivot like so many do. And so that's fine. We've got a little bit of an overextended setup on the 15-minute chart, so it wouldn't be totally out of the ordinary for this to dip down, hit that weekly pivot, and then make a run up. But watch for the break of this little bull flag right here, because do you see this level right here, this 132.75, where the flag is consolidating on dollar CAD? If we go to some larger time frames, we can see that that is that's basically our monthly high from October. October ran up to 132.75 and then just crashed off of that and is making another stab at it. So it's just sitting around there. This is a great opportunity for a really nice breakout and a nice continuation, most likely up into these highs right here. So we've got the highs of September all the way up at 135.50. So if we make a break of this monthly high, we're probably headed to the previous month's high, which I love. And that's going to all start with this little 1 hour bear flag. So so that can and should be exciting. Yeah, are you saying the old cup and handle, Simon? Yeah, we've got a little bit of that going on. Absolutely. So there, there's some pretty nice price pattern setups going here. Some really good stuff. And again, with oil is pushing the Canadian dollar, or at least holding it kind of at bay to some degree. Canada they had pretty good employment numbers on Friday, but interest rates are probably going nowhere anytime soon. And again, that's going to put the pressure on U.S. dollar rallies because of interest rates. So I love being long dollar CAD, and my entry will be the break of this 1 hour bull flag right here. So I think that's going to be fantastic. Here's a couple of dollar pairs that I'm a little bit torn on. Here's the Aussie dollar, which should probably continue to drop, and it may or may not. So I don't know what it's going to do, but the Aussie dollar is in quite the little wedge that it's forming. We've got a nice trend line on the daily chart that goes all the way back to the lows of September and October, and here we are testing. We've tested it over and over again. I'm going to say that if we break the lows of November so far, which are sitting at about 70, right about the 70 level, if we start getting below 70 cents on the Aussie dollar, I think it's safe to say that we're at least headed into the lows, but probably much lower. And I don't know exactly how much lower that's going to take us, but I think we could be making a nice little move down if we break that 70 level on the Australian dollar. Likewise, though, if that holds pretty well, then I'm going to be looking for about the break of 70.70 here. That's kind of where my channel is. It's kind of between the 70 level and 70.70. A break either way, and I'm going to look for at least 100 pips of movement on the Australian dollar. So I think we'll have some good opportunity there. And yes, we do have a little bit of news. That's right, Linda. Thank you. We'll see if that moves some of the Aussie pairs here a little bit. New Zealand dollar is kind of in an interesting situation. I don't know what we're going to see happen with New Zealand dollar here. I'm not as gung-ho to get short New Zealand dollar, US dollar, but I could get there, especially if we start breaking nicely below 60, 64.75, 6,500 area, then we may be looking for some nice continuations down on the New Zealand dollar. So I'm looking for that. I'm watching that. I'm seeing where that goes. You can see that we had this nice little breakout and a retest, and it's holding that pretty well. If we extend this out, we're once again breaking. The New Zealand dollar just kind of looks heavy. There's a little short-term bear flag here that looks ready to play out, and so I like New Zealand dollar for possibly some continuation down there. So I'm going to have my eyes very heavily on euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar CAD, Aussie dollar, and New Zealand dollar. Those are huge ones for me right now. I love what's going on with the dollar or the euro yen. It's a choppy mess, but it seems to be holding below 133.30, which was a very important level for me, and it seems to be holding pretty well below about 133.00, which was a pretty important level for me. So we're looking for some euro yen opportunity. Dollar yen, I don't know if anybody got into that break of 121.50 that we talked about 11 times last week, but that was a huge mover, and the dollar yen made a nice little run there. So we're going to definitely look at some of the yen pairs. And there's some good opportunity on EuroCAD, or excuse me, on Euro Aussie and Pound Aussie. But we've just got so much interesting, fantastic, great stuff going with Euro dollar, Pound dollar, dollar CAD, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. That's going to take up a lot of my time. So that's where my focus is going to be this week. I'm looking for all the dollar pairs to move to a little bit in the direction of a little bit of dollar weakness, and then I'm looking for them to just rally like crazy. I'm looking for the US dollar to rally against Euro, Pound, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and just move like crazy. And I think we'll be able to grab a few hundred pips this week out of all of those guys, and make some nice little trades there. So that's the direction I'm headed. That's what I'm looking at. That's my future telling right there. And if anybody wants to follow up on that and see if I'm talking crazy business, then feel free to, again, go to daytradersfx.com and get set up with a free trial. We'd love to have you. And that's the direction we're going to take things this week. So I'm going to get this recording posted. Any questions, any comments, I am more than happy to help out and chat about any other pairs you guys wanted to talk about. But that's what I'm excited about this week. What do you guys think about that?